to Rethink Your Legacy. This is Francisco Servent, attorney and problem solver at law. Look, I'm here. This conversation is designed to help you live your family's values before you leave this world. We got to do it now. And you know what? With all that's happening in the world, can we really talk about anything more important than living now in the moment for the things that are the most important to us? I don't know. I don't think there's anything more important to talk about than making sure that we are doing what we say is important to us. So thank you. Welcome to today. I'm excited for the opportunity again that we have just to live out our family values. What are your family values? Today, we're going to be asking you to jump on our Facebook page. We got a little contest for you. Look, the title for today is, what would you have done with $100,000 on your 18th birthday? Now, I would assume for most of you, that would have been a lot of money on your 18th birthday. Maybe for some of you it wouldn't have, but oh my gosh, that was a question that we just got thrown in our face when we saw it happen. And like I've told you before, my firm, we do estate planning, we do probate administration, we help people protect their assets and their businesses. And it just all got thrown in our face when we saw a couple kids who were way too young inherit a bunch of money. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, what I want to know is, what would you do? What would you do with $100,000 if you got it on your 18th birthday? Jump on our Facebook page, jump on this post, drop us a comment, and tell us what you would have done. I don't know what I've done. I was trying to come up with something really creative, and all I could come up with was I probably would have bought a really massive off-road vehicle, because at the time I was super, and I still am to some extent, but I was super into backpacking and hiking and hunting and fishing, and I would just love to have this beautiful rig that, I could have just charged through anything, right? But that's probably what I would have blown it on. I probably could have found $100,000 in gear and equipment to outfit the vehicle if I needed to. But what would you have blown it on? Maybe you wouldn't have. Maybe you would have stuck it in a savings account. We got to cover that. That's our main issue today, because what happens is I want you guys to be equipped. I don't want this to become a reality like it did for a particular client of mine. And I don't want that to become your reality for your kids, for your grandkids, or for anybody in your life. You share this information with them. Tell them, Francisco told me, he's a lawyer, he knows how to, here are the tips we're going to cover. So stick around. That's what we're going to cover today, is how to make sure you don't have this happen in your family. Money is a stress. And if you don't have the training to handle a windfall, it's going to not be a blessing. It's going to be a stress. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, as we're digging in here through, still the pandemic is just raging in Arizona, raging throughout the nation. And, there's so many things happening. Arizona just crossed over 100,000 cases. And my wife and I, she's a nurse, my wife and I are digging into this and trying to figure out what's the truth and what's really happening. And it just seems like everybody who's giving information or who's sharing information, it has their own spin on it. And that's probably the most frustrating thing for me as a consumer, as somebody who's trying to, take care of my family, is, well, what information is right? And there's lots of things out there. I'm trying to go to what I think are reliable sources, like the Arizona Department of Health. And, I think they're tracking the numbers correctly, but who really knows? And what at least is encouraging for me is that the cases are skyrocketing, but you know what? The number and the number of people who are passing away is not skyrocketing at the same speed. And while, my heart absolutely breaks for everybody who is struggling or whose family is affected by COVID right now, we know people personally who have had a family member pass away. And it breaks my heart. And I cannot imagine, I just cannot imagine. I wouldn't claim to know what they're going through. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, though, just as much for everybody who has lost a loved one now or recently or any time in history, really, that from anything else. There are murders, there are other illnesses, there are accidents. There's just so many things that can take our life and end it, just like that, just in a moment. And I think for me, for me and my wife and for my kids, what that's really driven for us to do is to say, hey, we got to be intentional. That, my gosh, like, life is precious, life is short, and we have no guarantee. We have no guarantee of tomorrow. So you know what? If you're listening to this and you're, maybe you're in that empty nest stage or that retirement stage of life, and you're starting to sort of shift gears, like, okay, what's this next phase of life going to be like? You might, I don't know, some of you might just be absolutely on cruise control. You got everything figured out. Good for you. Call me, 480-750-7788. Tell me your secrets. I need to know. We advise hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families every year. If that's not you, though, if you're confused about something in that stage of life and you're just not sure what should I do about taxes? What should I do about my retirement? What should I do about whatever? Call 480-750-7788, and that's what we help you with. We'll help you figure out those big, long-term decisions, or even the short-term. What do I do in this situation? And we'll help you however we can. Now, like I said, what we want to dig in on right now is protecting our kids from, there's some people who, the phrase or the coin the term, it's influenza, but it's because they've been infected with too much money, right? And so if you have the fear of, I don't want to dump a pile of cash in my kid's lap, well, this is what we're going to talk about today. The reason this all came crashing down on me was we actually had somebody really pass away just way too young. It was a completely unexpected heart attack. He was in his 50s, and I didn't know him. He wasn't a client of ours, but his kids, actually, a friend of his, came with his kids and asked us for help. What do they do? How do they figure this out? Can you imagine being in your young 20s, early 20s, and lose your dad unexpectedly? I can't imagine. I'm still blessed with my dad here, and I have the benefit of that. And these poor kids, they came to the office and they were upset. They were crying. And what do? And you comfort them. We try to say, look, this part of it isn't going to be that complicated. We can help you walk through the steps. There was enough there from their dad that they were each going to end up with, for about $400,000, which, could get their college done, get them squared away to start a life. And it was just going to be a process to go through. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was when they got that first check, one of them just completely disappeared and went off the rails. I can't even tell you what he did with the money. I don't know. It's gone. And he basically disappeared. I wonder, if he just ran off partying, all I can do is fill in the gap with a story. And he's gone. His sister said she can't really find him. He's not responding to her. And it just breaks my heart that, the dad didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to protect them from the reality of having too much money. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's a tough, heavy subject. But you know what? There's few things that are as important as digging in and figuring this out. So if if you are dealing with this right now, if you've had a family member pass away, you don't know how to clean up the mess, it's just too much, it's too confusing. That's what we do. We help guide people through that. We've got free resources, guidebooks, checklists, videos. Check us out on our YouTube channel, Facebook, or go to radio.keystonelawfirm.com, and you'll actually get today's checklist. So you can fill in your information and you'll automatically get the checklist of today's talking points. Or you can just call us, 480-750-7788. And you'll talk with one of my team members that, there's no pressure. They're just awesome, helpful people. Whatever they can do to help, they will. If it's something that you need to come in and actually sit down and talk with someone, then they'll explain that process. It's called a discovery hour with our law firm. And we call it that because really you need to do some discovery about who are you going to feel comfortable working with. You don't want to go sit down and have some high-powered lawyer over influence you to just sign on the dotted line. You want to sit down with somebody comfortably in a no pressure environment where you can just get your questions answered and say, do I feel comfortable here? And if you do, they'll explain the process of how people become clients of ours. That phone number is 480-750-7788. And that's what we're going to talk about. Today, it's all about helping our kids do the best that they can. So stick around, because next we want to talk about a story where somebody did inherit too much money and we're still watching it play out. So let's stick in and let's see what happens.
Welcome back to Rethink Your Legacy. This is Francisco Servent, your attorney and problem solver at law. And today we're digging into the question of what would you have done with $100,000 on your 18th birthday. It's kind of like a dream, a fantasy to even play with that concept. What would you do? $100,000. It's not going to set you up for the rest of your life, but, it could buy you a car. It could be a down payment on a house. If you plant that seed in a investment portfolio at 18, imagine what it could be by 48 or 78. I think the last time I ran the numbers with a modest investment return of like 8 or 9%, that $100,000 turns into $1 million after 30 years. That's kind of interesting if you do nothing with it, but just let it sit and be invested. Anyway, that's what we're digging in on. And because this story arose, it just jumped out at us in an unfortunate example where some kids who were in their young 20s inherited a couple $100,000 each, and they just completely went off the rails. At least one of them we know did. The other one we're not sure, but we know one of them just completely went off the rails. It was devastating to lose a parent that young, but then also to get a pile of money, and it was enough money so that he didn't have to do anything for a few years. He could just sit there and twiddle his thumbs and I don't know. And that's what prompted this. In this day where we're trying to live through this pandemic, things are extra stressful. We're having, so much information overload on all these different topics. I think they were saying that the amount of media attention that this is getting compared to the last pandemic is 500 times the amount of media attention. It's just overwhelming. And what I want to help you do is first help you know that your family values need to be lived out in this area of money and inheritance, because your family's depending on you to do that. And if you're the husband or the dad, you've got a absolute responsibility to take care of this. And if you're the wife or the mom, you've also got a responsibility to make sure this is taken care of. And that's what we do at my firm, is we help people do that so that this stuff doesn't just get ignored. Now, what I want to talk about is inheriting too much money. And imagine being 18. What was your life like when you were 18? Think back to those days, right? For me, that was 2 years after I finally decided to straighten up my life and stop being a punk and a hoodlum, a delinquent. It was 2 years later, right? 18. I was that hoodlum kid when I was about 15, 16. What if I was 18 when that was still going on? My whole life would be way different, because a lot of that stuff would have been adult, right? Adult charges, adult trouble. When you're a juvenile, it's a whole different ballgame. And I just think about 18, man, that was just a short 2-year time period that I was beyond my worst years. What was your life like at 18? We're running a contest right now. Drop on our Facebook page a comment of what you would have done with $100,000 on your birthday. And the comment, the plan, I guess, that gets the most likes, we're going to shoot you a Amazon gift card. So drop in, give us a comment. What would you do? I'd love to hear your stories. I'd love to hear you looking back at your life as an 18-year-old And I would challenge you, don't tell yourself as an 18-year-old knowing everything you know now. What would you have actually done back then? Not knowing everything you know now, because that's going to make it interesting. Now, what the biggest example that I have of somebody getting just too much money on their 18th birthday wasn't somebody who inherited it, actually. I just thought the most interesting example was this one with Justin Bieber. He was the wealthiest, I think, 18-year-old on his 18th birthday, just through all of the accumulation of his whole royalties and all the media and all the assets he had built up as a celebrity. I think it was somewhere close to $17 billion. Don't quote me on that, but it was billions. And on 18th birthday, bam, right? Holy moly. Can you imagine? No, I mean, none of us can imagine, or I guess we can imagine, but it's just fantasy land. 18 years old and now immediately able to make decisions that nobody can override. That's what our law says. It says that at 18, you're an adult, and now magically, 1 minute before you weren't capable, 1 minute later, or 1 second later at midnight, you are capable of making these legal decisions all on your own. Nobody can trump you. You know, if you stick to your guns, it's your decision. You're an adult. That's what it means under Arizona law. Holy cow. It's kind of scary from a lot of respects, right? I mean, that impacts money, like what happened with Justin Bieber. He had a few years where, kind of just went off the rails, and I think he's sort of searching his way back to some maturity right now. But, I mean, how can you not, holy moly, it's just too much money for somebody that age without the kind of training that's necessary. It's also 18, bam, you're your own medical person, right? Nobody can make your medical decisions for you, and your parents can't even ask the doctor what's going on. So what happens if there's an emergency? There's a gal on our Facebook page who said this happened to her when she sent her daughter off to college. Her daughter went off to college, and the only way she found out her daughter was in the emergency room was because the doctor in the emergency room realized nobody was coming, nobody was calling, they didn't have permission on file, they had nothing. But he decided, I'm going to break federal HIPAA privacy laws, and I'm going to call the mom. And I'm going to tell her, we've got your daughter, and she's in a coma. Holy cow. Those kinds of things, right when you turn 18, make a difference. Now, with the inheritance, right, if you're worried about that, call us. We'll help you figure it out so that your kids don't get it in a lump sum. 750-7788. That's 480-750-7788. Because it goes back all the way back to biblical times, right? Where in Proverbs it says the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. I mean, just think about it. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you finally had enough in the bank, for example, right? You're just like, oh, I finally got it. Like you got a bonus at work, you had an extra good sales commission, you whatever, right? Maybe it was your first real job and it was your first quote unquote big paycheck. And you just went, finally I got enough. And you just sat back and you went, I can finally relax. Instantly, we've all experienced that our soul just said, I don't have to do anything. It craves and it gets nothing. That's the problem with getting too much at an age where you don't know how to manage it. Because if you've created souls within them that are diligent, they will be richly supplied. Diligent, right? We've got to have work in our life. We've got to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning. We've got to have a reason to go be productive. We all want to be valuable. We work with a lot of clients who are in that legacy and care stage of life. You know, they're 85 plus years old. And in that stage of life, they're not trying to accumulate. They're not trying to impress anybody. They're literally just trying to make a difference. And you know what we hear so often is that they feel like they're fading into oblivion, that they're fading and nobody will remember them. Well, you know what? That same feeling is the feeling kids get when they have too much and they don't have the guidance and the training to be motivated, to produce and to be valuable. That's what we're all called to do, is to be valuable in this life. And so that's why you're here. Stick around. On our next part after the break, what I'm going to cover with you is the things that you can do now while you're alive, right? To start training your kids. There's a couple really simple and then a couple really tough tricks there. But look, if you need help with this stuff, if you're trying to plan ahead for your kids, or if you're in the middle of this and you've had a loved one pass away and it's not as easy as you thought it would be to administer their affairs, give us a call, 480-750-7788, or go to the website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. Or, you know what, with the contest we're running today, jump on Facebook at Keystone Law Firm and leave us a comment. What would you have done with $100,000 on your birthday? And, if you get the most likes, there may be a prize for you. So jump on our Facebook page or watch this on YouTube and give us a comment. Leave us any question. I'm going to bring those back to our radio show and we'll make sure you get them answered. Look, your first step, if you actually need help, you don't want to go to a free consultation somewhere. You can get those anywhere. They're worth what you pay. You want to go somewhere where they're going to dedicate some time to you and give you the space to not be pressured into signing anything. You're just going to be answering your questions, figuring out what's going on, figure out what you're worried about, because sometimes it's too confusing to put all this together. And that's what we do. Your first step in our office is called a discovery hour. And in that moment, in that hour, that's where you're going to help just lay out what's going on. And nobody's going to press you to do anything. We'll just answer all your questions and help you figure out what your options are. 480-750-7788. And come back after the break so I can make sure you get these 4 tips on what to train them now. Welcome back to Rethink Your Legacy. Francisco Servent here. What we're talking about today is what would you have done with $100,000 on your 18th birthday? I'd be shocked if any 18-year-olds are listening, but if you are, hey, drop us a comment. The rest of you, drop us a comment on Facebook. We're running a contest today. The answer that gets the most likes is going to win a gift card from us, and I want to know, what would you have done? $100,000, bam, cash on your 18th birthday. But try to answer without giving yourself advice. Just think back to who you were at 18 and then give us the answer. So that's what we're talking about. What I want to dig in on now is, what are the top things? What are the 4 tricks or things you can do to train your kids now, right? Not only, should you do this in your estate plan, like everybody needs to have a will or a trust or something to say, here's what happens. Family, I love you. I organized my affairs. Here you go, right? You shouldn't just do it there, though you should obviously do it there. That's your last chance to make a difference, right? But you've got your whole life to make a difference. So let's do these things too while we're still here and around. The first thing I think is most important is to be transparent with your kids about your money, right? And more importantly, be transparent with them about what it took for you to build it, for you to save it, for you to create the life that you've created. And I think for me, I look at my parents, my mom, I just have vivid memories of my mom sitting, having me sit next to her at one of the first computers we owned that had Quicken on it, and having, she was watching, or I'm watching her doing the bills and reconciling the checkbook and balancing the budget. And I just remember them being transparent about this stuff, just going through, month after month, year after year, watching my parents have to do their taxes and work with their insurance, just all that kind of stuff, right? And my wife and I, we have 4 kids. We've got twins, almost 13. We got an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And though they're too young to manage our budget, they're not too young to start understanding how money works. And just look at this crazy, hilarious, amazing, awesome example for my oldest son, Gabriel. It was about a year ago. He said, "Dad, this was when he was 11, right? Dad, I want to start saving up for a car." And I'm like, "A car, man? You got like years ahead of you for a car." He's like, "Well, yeah, but I really want a Jeep." I'm like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Jeep, that's pretty awesome." And in my mind, I'm thinking, I want a Jeep. And he says, well, I better start saving up now. So can you help me come up with a way to start saving up some money? I'm like, well, okay, let's talk about it. So we talked about it. And over the course of a few weeks, came up with a crazy idea, an idea that's not so crazy now, where he actually goes around to people in our neighborhood and he pulls their trash bin out and puts it back for them so that they never forget. Holy cow. Great, right? I can't tell you how many times I forgot to pull the stupid trash can out. And then it's a full trash can for the next week. Yeah, so not only is he making some money, but he's also helping some husbands out there not get in trouble with their wives. And that just brings a tear to my eyes, Gabriel. So yeah, it's amazing, right? All you have to do is figure out a way. So train them, be transparent about it. How money works. It's saved over time. You only have as much as you have. What it means when you borrow money, because there's a cost to that. There's more than just the interest. There's the emotional weight of it, right? Train them. So number one is to be transparent about it. Number two, which my wife does a much better job at this than I do, but normalize the discussions. Normalize the discussions. That's so key. Make it normal. Don't make it weird, right? The more you talk about it, the more normal it will be. Remove the fear of the discussion. If you will do the thing you fear, death of fear is certain. Price Pritchett, right? Do the thing you fear. Look, if you are just naturally, we always talk about our money. We always talk about our budget. We always talk about, and not from the perspective of, damn it, we can't afford that. Nope, money doesn't grow on trees. I mean, no, that's not talking about it. That's just declaring something. Talk about it. Well, let's see. Do you think that's going to fit in the budget? Well, where do you think you're going to get the money for that? Or what? Talk about it. Just make it a rolling, normal conversation. And that, if it's a normal conversation over time, then it's not going to be weird when they have a financial issue for them to bring it up. And guess what? When they bring it up, then you get to have input. You get to, they then bring it to you seeking advice instead of you having to go to them and cram it down their throat, right? You don't want to do that. That advice isn't going to be received. But when they come to you or just comes up in conversation, hey, this is happening and blah, 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 you have now the opportunity to influence them. So that's number two, normalize the discussions. Number three, this one might, I think this is an important one for folks who realize you're leaving your kids enough money that it could let them do nothing. Tell them they aren't getting all your wealth. Just critical. Tell them they're not getting it all. And truly, I honestly believe we have an obligation to not give it all to them. If we can give them enough that they can use it to do nothing the rest of their life, we need to second guess ourselves and ask, are we really doing the right thing? Now, maybe we are. If they've proven themselves, if they are productive, if they're motivated, they're out there no matter what, no matter how much they've got in the bank, they're still pursuing and changing the world, then that money might just be more gasoline on the fire, which is awesome. But you have to ask yourself, am I leaving this person enough money to do nothing with the rest of their life? And you know what? If that's true, then you need to, I would want you to tell them you aren't getting all of this wealth, period. Because what happens is people fight about it. Now, if you're stuck in one of these fights, or if you want to plan ahead for these, give us a call, 480-750-7788. My team will give you a call back tomorrow. We'll help you figure it out and get started. Because you don't want this to be a surprise. You just don't want this to be a surprise for them after you pass. We deal with these cases where a child or even a couple children will come to us and say, oh my gosh, Dad said, Dad had millions of dollars and there's only a tiny fraction of it that's coming to us. We believe that will was fraudulent. We believe the trust, that person or that charity who's getting it all influenced them, or we believe whatever. And they want to fight and they want to litigate, and that's going to drag things out over years. And that is not what you want to give them. If you want to give them, if you're not giving them all of your wealth, then please sit down and have that discussion. It's uncomfortable. Trust me. Oh my gosh. We help families have those discussions. If you need help, let us know. But have the discussion anyway. It's much better for their sanity, their relationship with each other, their relationship with their kids, to have that discussion with you now. All right, the fourth tip, all right, is if you want to learn how to keep your kids from being ruined by money, is to learn about this thing that I call the incentive survival instinct. The incentive survival instinct. We've all got a survival instinct. We know that. You threaten somebody's life and they're just going to burst out and defend themselves, right? We have survival instinct. Well, the same thing goes with our ability or our drive to produce our own resources, our own jobs, our own income, our own businesses. We have to be doing it from the base, deep, dark need of survival. And sometimes if that's not there, that need to do it, then it's not created. That seed never grows and the incentive never develops. There's just article and research after research of the age-old story of kids growing up with a silver spoon in their mouth, of trust fund babies, and watching people inherit hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars even now. And the incentive to survive it just was never germinated. It never grew. But the reality is this happens with every single dollar amount, even dollar amounts way, way, way less. So, I mean, I saw this with a 65-year-old. I'm going to tell you that story after the break. If you need help with this, give us a call, 480-750-7788. Jump on our Facebook page at Keystone Law Firm and give us a comment, because if you tell us what you would have done with $100,000 on your 18th birthday and you get the most likes, hey, look out for a gift certificate from us, because we want to hear those stories. I want to hear what you would have done. Or you can go to our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com. You can download this week's show topic and all the prior show topics and all the future show topics, because you'll get a checklist for each show. And then you get this nice little library of everything and all this wisdom that we're going to share with you. Or, like I said, give us a call, 480-750-7788. Your first step, if you need help with us, is a discovery hour. And that's really a no-pressure appointment where you get to have just an open, comfortable conversation with our team, and they will help you look at all your options and say, okay, let's see, what if you did A, B, C, D? What does life look like? And they'll answer as many questions as possible. Come back after the break. Welcome back to Rethink Your Legacy. This is Francisco Servent, attorney and problem solver at law over at Keystone Law Firm. Look, if you need help, give us a call, 480-750-7788. Our firm does estate planning. We do wills and trusts. We do elder law, guardianships, conservatorships, and anything that happens in the probate court. If you need help to administer someone's affairs, or if you need help, unfortunately, sometimes disputing something about somebody's affairs, we can help you dig into that. So we had somebody that, like I said a minute ago, this inheriting money too young can be a problem, right? What would you have done with $100,000 on your 18th birthday? Now, 18 is the magic age for someone's adulthood, but at least in my life, and maybe in some of your lives, it's not the magic age for your infinite wisdom and maturity. Oh my gosh, I'm 18. Now I know how to make everything work. No. So, yeah, 18 isn't that magic age. So what is the magic age? I don't know. I mean, is it 20? Is it 25? I see a lot of lawyers say, 25 or 30, or you know what, let's break it up. They're going to get some at 30, 40, and 50. Okay. I don't know. I mean, what's the magic number? There are 50-year-olds who are filing bankruptcy every year. And in inherited dollars, they also hold kind of a little bit of they hold less sweat equity, if there is such a thing in the inheritance, right? They weren't generated by their sweat. We had a 65-year-old whose mom died, and we were helping administer her affairs. And it was just him and his brother. And they were getting everything equally, pretty simple. Mom had lived in a small home. I think it was worth about $80,000. And she had her life savings, all she had accumulated inside of a couple annuities. And it was a couple $100,000. She basically lived month to month on her Social Security. She didn't really draw out of the annuity. She didn't spend more than she had coming in. She lived within her means. She was a frugal woman. And she left her kids, each got, $100,000, $200,000, something like that. So as we're going through the process, and, both these kids are fine, good. Nothing like, they're not like running off and big gamblers. They're just going through the process. Well, I'm walking out to the appointment, one of the last appointments, and I see my client pull up in the parking lot. There's a big window. And what does he pull up in? Yes, he pulls up to my office in a I'm not going to tell you what kind of car, a brand new $100,000 vehicle. I see it pull up and kind of catches my eye. I'm like, whoa, that's a nice car, because we don't have, that kind of car doesn't pull up every day. I went, wow, that's beautiful. And then I see him get out, my jaw drops. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? He walks in, he sits down, and we're wrapping things up. And I'm like, is that a nice new car? He goes, yeah, I just bought it, And I know he didn't have the money before he inherited. So his mom's inheritance went straight to a $100,000 vehicle that I doubt he could even afford. So I don't know what the magic age is. This is a problem. This is a real problem that we see played out every day. So what do you do? Well, there's really 4 types of trusts, and that's what I want to cover in our last bit of time together. There's 4 kinds of trusts that we see people use, and I want you to know about so that you can figure out what works, what's best for you guys. The first one is what's called common trusts. Second one is a trust that is just outright at a certain age. The third one is a staged distribution over time. And the last one is a lifetime protected trust. All right, so those are the 4 types. Now, man, there's all kinds of variations. Maybe there's 1,000 of them, but those are 4 big general types that we see used a lot. Well, what are they? What are these things? All right, the common trust is mostly used for families that have minor children. You have minor children, then if you pass away when you've got little kids still, you want all of the money, generally speaking, to be held in one common little pool for all of their benefit. If one of them needs a little more money than the other one, that's okay, because as a parent, that's what you probably would have done anyway. If I pass away now, my wife and I, something happened to both of us, God forbid, I wouldn't say split our estate up into 4 equal shares. And, if Gabriel runs out of money, too bad, buddy. Sorry. Like, while he's a minor, I guess he's just on his own. No, it's going to be in a common pool for all of them, okay? That's the first type. The second type is outright at a certain age, where, you pass away, and then if they're over whatever age you pick, boom, poof, it all goes, just a big pile of cash that's over to them. That's a very, unfortunately, common use of estate planning. The third one is staged over time. We see that one too, where you say, hey, at 30, you'll get, a third. At 40, you'll get another third. And at 50, you'll get the rest. That's pretty common. Or you pick different ages, right? You can pick different ages. You can pick multiple ages, whatever. The lifetime protected trust is what I want to spend most of my time talking about. If you need help setting this up, give us a call, 480-750-7788, and we'll help you figure it out and sort out which one makes sense for you. The protected trust, this works literally for their life, and it wraps up into it some of the features of the other ones. The general way it works is after you pass away, it's set up in each child's inheritance. If they're younger than 18, it's all kept together in a common trust. And then when the youngest one gets up to a certain age, maybe you say 25, or you say when the last one graduates college, or some kind of objective data point that's in the future, you say, okay, at that point, then it's going to get split into equal shares for each kid. So we have 4 kids, so it would get 4 shares. And then each of their shares is going to stay in a trust for the rest of their life, right? Rest of their life. Now, what's neat about that is it protects them from a couple things. It protects them from just waiting for that date to get a pile of cash, which is destructive and can be destructive at any age. It also keeps that inheritance from being lost in a divorce. If they were to be married and later get divorced, or they were later to get married and then get divorced, it can't be attacked as community property. It stays separate property. Third, if they were in a car accident or lawsuit, then that's just, they can't get to it because it's in this type of protected trust. Or if they themselves had to go file bankruptcy, these types of trusts are protected for your kids. And that's pretty neat. They can't lose it accidentally. Now, how do you set it up? Give us a call, 480-750-7788, and just ask us. You're going to say, hey, what's this information about a protected trust for beneficiaries? They go on for their lifetime. Now, what's neat about it is they can take money out and use it like the inheritance you intended for them to use, but they can't lose it on accident. And so you kind of get the best of both worlds. They can't lose it on accident, but they can use it when they want. Holy cow. I mean, that's just the way all inheritances should be set up. It's called a lifetime protected trust for beneficiaries. Give us a call, 480-750-7788. We're also running that contest. I want to see what you guys would have done with $100,000 on your 18th birthday. Drop us a comment on Facebook, and the comment with the most likes is going to win a gift certificate. Or jump on our website, radio.keystonelawfirm.com, and there you can get our checklist from today, which will have the topic built out for you. You can also get the checklist for the prior shows. So you don't have to just be, jump on last time and figure out what did you guys talk about last time? Because last time we talked about the financial dangers no one tells you as a widow. And guess what? You'll get next week's too. Next week's is, July, it's ice cream month. Skip the ice cream. Take comfort in a smart financial plan. So next week, we're going to talk about my favorite topic, which is ice cream and financial planning, and how to not get taken advantage of by bad financial advice out there. So come join us next week and give us a call if you need questions or help before then. That's 480-750-7788. This is Francisco Servent. Thanks for joining us here on Rethink Your Legacy. Make it a great week and go take care of your families.